What's up, everyone? DJ Nubis here with you on the Metal Radio podcast with another episode of the Species Spotlight, where I go and I talk about particular tarantulas in my own collection of the hobby of the tarantula keeping. And today I'm going to talk about the Monocentropus Balfouri, also known as the Socotra Island blue tarantula. One interesting fact about this that people may have heard or may not have heard is that these are a type of tarantula that can actually commune together as a family and not really cannibalize each other, even though I think they do a little bit if they're hungry enough and not fed enough. But they are one of the species of spider that can actually live together as a group. And they're out of Socotra Island off the coast of Yemen. They're an old world species. Naturally, no urticating hairs, but obviously because they are old world, their venom would be significant enough to make you sick and hurt you a little bit. Not kill you, but certainly make you very, very sick. They can get up to 7 inches in terms of their size, including their leg length. And as usual with tarantulas, the females can live up to 15 years, as the males live to 3 to 4 years. Into time. So when it comes to like experienced keepers and beginners and stuff, this is not one that you want to start out with. Although some people say, hey, yeah, go ahead. Some people are actually very open and just say, yeah, if you want a particular tarantula, then go ahead and get whatever you want. But because of the speed of certain spiders, and chances are all of them are pretty fast. Even some of my new worlds are very fast when they feed and stuff. So I'd always suggest going with like a new world species, like a pink toe or a curly hair or something to start with, and then kind of go from there. Just get used to how they move, and each spider can be their own individual. They don't always act the same. Some people have said that their OBTs are very chill and laid back, where others are like, it's a pain in the ass and it gets pissy whenever you just walk by their enclosure. So I've noticed that too. Like one of the things that people told me about the Brazilian black is that they're very docile, very chill spiders. Well, mine, he's a good dude. He's a male, but he gets defensive. Like if I get around him and I'm trying to clean his water dish, he gets pissy. He just does. It's not like in an aggressive manner, but it's just like he doesn't want to be bothered at all. Doesn't want to be messed with. Now his venom isn't toxic or anything like that, but he does kick hairs, and I have actually had him kick hairs on me before, and it's not a pleasant thing. It's very uncomfortable, especially when you're itching and scratching. So be careful when dealing with new worlds, the hair kickers, because certainly it can be almost as devastating as being bit. Like you just don't want it. But with the Balfouri, they're very, very beautiful. They've got this mixture of like almost brownish golden color with blue. I have 2 currently. Now, the first one I had, she got out. I mean, I call them she's until I know for sure what sex they are, but she got out when she was about yay big, and I was moving her to her new enclosure right when I got her, and she scurried away, and I couldn't find her, and I thought she probably died off somewhere or whatever, got lost because this is a big house. And a month later, Neko comes up to the bedroom and is like, hey, can you come look at the spider? I think it might be your lost tarantula because it doesn't look like a normal spider. Now, keep in mind, again, it's only yay big, so it could be easily confused to somebody else as being another type of spider, but they do act differently. So like this one, thing about the Balfouri for me is, whereas you're going to see a video from Richard where he says that they're usually, or at least in his experience, the Balfouri can be docile and chill. And they are patient spiders. They're not like really super defensive right away, but like surprisingly, my first one, the little one, when I went to go get it, Neko would put like a cup over it when she saw it, so the cats wouldn't get involved because they got very interested with it. But when I went to look at it, I was like, it does kind of look like my spider. And then I kind of see that it rears up. Like even at a very young age, it was very annoyed that I was trying to bother it. And granted, it's not going to hurt me at that size, but the reality is that, again, its behavior patterns were like not consistent with like regular spider. Regular spiders usually just run. They just, true spiders will like gone. Now tarantulas do skitter, but when they're cornered, they do act a bit differently than, most spiders, unless it's like a black widow or something. But this one acted different. I was like, well, you know what I'm going to do is, because I couldn't really determine right away if it was my spider. So I captured it, put it in like a little enclosure, and I just kept an eye on it, just to see how it would behave. And of course, it started webbing up really big, and I was like, okay, I think this is my secure, my Balfouri here. And sure enough, but in the meantime, when I lost that one, I bought another one that was about 2 to 3 inches. So I have a much larger one. So I'm just going to show you some pictures real quick of my little one first, and then we'll go with a couple of the bigger one. Initially, I had planned on moving my littler one, who's a little bit bigger now. I was going to move her over to where the bigger one was, and I did for a little bit, but she ended up going up towards the top of the enclosure and just kind of staying up there. She wasn't really going anywhere else. And so from what I understand is it's better to, even though you can take Balfouri from different egg sacs and put them together and they seem to be fine as a species, you should try to keep them the same size. And I didn't really know that. So initially when I had my little one with the big one had come out thinking maybe it might have been food. So I didn't eat it, but like the little one just stayed up near the top where the opening was. And I'm like, well, I can't really feed him when I got her hanging around up here. So I ended up taking her out and just putting her in another enclosure for now until she gets a little bit bigger. But that's something to keep in mind if you're going to buy more than one Balfouri and kind of keep a commune of yourself. That's not really my plan. I don't know what sex both my spiders are right now, but I'm not a breeder, so I have to be careful with that, because obviously if one is a male and one's a female and they start doing their thing, and then all of a sudden I've got an egg sac. Now, granted, she can hatch the egg sacs, in the enclosure that I have the bigger one in, and they'll be fine. But eventually I would have to move them because, they expand and all that stuff. So but yeah, here's a little one for now. Now, some of these pictures were taken when I had her with the bigger one, but she was hanging around the top. So it's not quite as clear, but you can see this is where she was hiding because she just didn't want to get involved with the bigger one, which it was smart on her part. Here's another nice shot of her. This is the little one, of course, but look how you see the little golden brown color and the blue on the legs and stuff like that. And then here's like an underside of her. And then the bigger one, and she was on the other side of the enclosure because she had already made her home and stuff. So that's the bigger one there. And clearly just a gorgeous, gorgeous spider all the way around. And again, there's another one of the big ones. So she kind of hangs around just on the bigger end of this side here, where she pretty much made her home when she first got in there. And you see this like gray at the bottom. This is like a little cavern I put in there, a little gray makeshift cavern. And I thought she would go use that, but she didn't. So she went by the bark here and went in the back, and that's pretty much where she made her home. So that was basically like, she just webs up and everything. She just stays over there in that end. Doesn't really come out too much because usually crickets will go to her when I throw them in there. They're just kind of wandering around and she manages to find them. But I do have the water dish on the other end. So I'm hoping that she's at least going and getting water, which she looks very healthy. Again, I don't know if she's a female for sure, but again, I just kind of hope for that when I first get a tarantula, whether it's a spiderling or juve, I'm hoping females. But then usually I know right away with certain behaviors or the hooks or whatever that they're males at some point. And usually, body type isn't like a guarantee. But a lot of times when I see one of my tarantulas that are kind of lanky and have longer legs and they just, they don't look as thick as some of the females I have, I kind of figure they're going to be males. I mean, again, it's never a 100% guarantee because Brazilian black, he's a male with the hooks, but he's plump. He's in good shape. He doesn't look bad, and I'm not even entirely sure if he's totally full grown yet, but he's big enough. But I was hoping that was a female when I got it, but no, it is a male. But anyway, we're going to check out 2 different videos from 2 of the best in the hobby right now, Richard from Tarantula Collective and then Dave from Dave Little Beasties. Both will be talking about this particular species of spider, how they like them, and a little bit of information on some of the stuff that I've already told you. But we're going to go ahead and just check it out, and then we'll see what they got to say.
Welcome to the Tarantula Collective. My name is Richard. Anytime I upload a new video. Now today we're talking about one of my favorite species out there. It's a great beginner old world tarantula and one of the only tarantula species out there that can be kept communally in captivity.
Got a little bit of purple there.
Monocentropus Balfouri, known commonly in the hobby as the Socotra Island blue baboon, was described by Pocock in 1897 and is an old world terrestrial species that is native to the island of Socotra, about 150 miles east of the Horn of Africa. This area has a tropical to semi-desert climate with fairly moderate temperatures and rainfall. Being from this island and secluded, this species has evolved in ways unlike other tarantulas. First, they have a very identifiable color pattern that makes them very recognizable. Also, they are known as the most communal tarantula in the hobby, as they have evolved into living in close quarters in their natural habitat. The best way to know if you have a male or female is to examine the inside of a molt. But some have reported that once a male has its ultimate molt and is fully mature and ready to mate, its carapace will be bright blue, while females will be a gray or lighter blue. The reason that this isn't the best method is that I have seen many reports online from those with first-hand knowledge saying their males never develop the bright blue carapace upon maturing. These spiders have a fairly mellow temperament for an old world tarantula. They can be very fast and are prone to bolt when startled or when they feel threatened.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So when I first got my little one, I figured they'd be fast, but it wasn't that she was just fast, but I usually stack like some boxes so I can just stand up and do my transferring over. And even though I had a catch cup, dude, the minute it got out and got past me, it jumped down and just disappeared. Like, no idea where it went. I was looking everywhere. I thought, dude, how could it have just disappeared that fast? Because I go into this little mud room, and even if I try to like clog up the bottom there, in terms of the cracks and stuff to the closet door and stuff, like she still got through somewhere. And I'm just like, but we found her. But unfortunately, my electric blue that got out, which is a whole other story, still haven't seen her, but it's been a couple months. So I'm not really sure if she's even still alive either. But I'm hoping that she'll turn up and doesn't come across the spiders or come across the cats, because that would be bad. But
in general, they are relaxed and laid back, especially with other specimens in a communal setup, having been observed by many keepers sharing a roach or cricket as they feed. This species is an opportunistic burrower, meaning that they will prefer to burrow down into the substrate, but they will also web up the entrance of their burrow and expand their webbing throughout their enclosure, and almost seem semi-arboreal like the green bottle blue or orange baboon tarantula. One of the amazing aspects of this species is that not only can they be kept communally, but you can keep them with other M. balfouris from different egg sacs. And there have even been multiple reports of people beginning communals by mixing slings and juveniles. It is probably best when deciding to keep specimens of different sizes together communally to make a new enclosure and move everyone into the new home, as opposed to just dropping them into an enclosure that one tarantula has already settled into.
Yeah, and that might have been my mistake too, is that I'd already had the larger one in the one enclosure, and she basically had been in there a while before I tried to move the younger one in there, and then they just, I don't know if it's like a scent thing or a webbing thing or whatever, but clearly the younger one was a little bit intimidated to be in there. And so if going down the road, I go to move them, I will probably get a whole new enclosure and put them both in there at the same time to kind of do what Richard says here, so that they can kind of just mingle and then find their own boundaries or whatever.
And it seems that once a female has matured, if she is not already in a communal setup, she will be less likely to adjust and may not be able to cohabitate peacefully with other specimens. I keep the water dish full, and once every week or two will overflow the water so the corner of the enclosure has damp substrate to help keep things a little more humid than the ambient humidity of the room. If I didn't have a water dish or it's too webbed over, I will drip water on its web every couple of days, but not too much so I avoid flooding its burrow. I keep these slings, just like all my spiderlings, in my spiderling nursery that has a temperature a few degrees higher than the average room temperature in my home. I find this helps the spiderling survival rate and growth rate slightly, and you can see a video on how I set this up linked in the top right corner. For juveniles, I move them into my basic juvenile style enclosure that you've seen in many of my other videos.
One thing that I know Richard, you can see, he doesn't mention it here because I took some, I didn't watch the entire video through you guys, but he fills up his soil pretty high with them. And when we go to watch Dave's video, it's a lot different. And I do what Dave does because I really like his videos. I like how he does his setups, and I really love his thought process and his experience with spiders. Now Richard has a lot of experience as well, but it kind of shows you the difference between keepers in general, how they want to keep their spiders or how they handle them or don't handle them. It's everyone has their own way, but Richard kind of has deeper substrate, and so he lets them burrow with that. But for me, I keep like a thin layer of substrate, but then I make sure they have a lot of twigs and bark and stuff. And so, because they do a lot of webbing, so that within itself is a way for them to kind of create a burrow for them, even through the webbing. And I mean, the substrate's still there. And the one larger one that she did, even my smaller one did the same thing. It's only about that much, but she still found a way to burrow and make a big webbing in her little holes and stuff. So, and it's interesting because spiders keep almost two entryways. They'll have an entryway here and then one on the back or somewhere, because I don't know if that's in case they run into a problem with predators and they need a way to get back out or whatever. But both spiders have two entry points of how they get in and out of their burrows. But it looks like, for some people, they use a thicker, deeper substrate for the Balfouri, whereas Dave and I'd use less. And for me, I think part of it also is if you're dealing with a commune and you want to go and move some out, or if you're a breeder and you're going to pick up, try to go and get the spiderlings and put them separately so you can sell them or whatever, you don't really want to be having to dig through a lot of dirt that collapses when you try to go to move them out and redo their enclosure and stuff. So I know when Dave got his, he had some other Balfouri already, but somebody had sent him a commune of 30 Balfouri, and so he had to go through and sift through the substrate and through the webbing to find the little babies and then move them over to whatever. I think he put either in a nursery or I don't think he put them into the bigger enclosure. He kept pretty much the bigger ones together. And I think he kept all the females together and moved the males separately, or maybe it was vice versa. I can't remember. But either way, I use less substrate than Richard does there for that. I just make sure they have enough high spots and twigs and stuff like that, so they can make their connections and with their webbing and stuff. So, all right, let's check out Dave. This is not the fun video I saw of him a while back where he was moving all these Balfouri over into this big ass enclosure because they kept trying to run out, and so you have to go and try to draw them back in, because every time you put one in, it would spook another one and they would run out and he had to go back and put them in. But this, you can see he's going to explain his different setups with when they start as, you know, being pregnant female, egg sacs, and then as they get older and so on. So
I thought what we'd do is we'd have a look at our Balfouris. Now, these are a spider that we do very, very well with, and we breed a lot of them. And we get lots and lots of questions about how we go about things, what we do, things to look for when we've bred our Balfouri and what have you. And so I thought we actually have a good opportunity here in the Beastie Room at this moment in time, because we've got these three here have all hatched out. And then we've got this one here that is preparing to go. And we can see in there, you get a little bit more light. Now, as you can see, we keep just an inch or two of substrate in the bottom. Yeah. This is done on purpose. We don't want this spider to burrow down and disappear. So we only put a small layer of stuff in the bottom. And then what we do is we use a piece of cork bark like here, and we lean it up against the back. We put a backboard on the enclosure, and that gives our spider the security that she requires. And then what happens is she will web up behind this board. Now, we will breed her in here. So we introduce our male into here. He will get on and do the job. Balfouri are really easy in that way. They're not difficult. You don't have to muck around too much with them. And that's often the giveaway. So when we've gone from this to this, we know we've got babies imminent. So we often get asked, you know, should we check our female? Should we be doing this?
So you can see for this particular species just how much they web up, even when they get older. And like in his bigger enclosure, that's like, I don't know if it's like 100-gallon or 200-gallon enclosure, but even in that, after he had moved that big delivery he got, you know, a month or two later, he was showing it again, and like it was just so webbed over, like because he wanted to go in and see if there was any babies to collect and stuff like that. Because obviously, if you know, you have mating, and because again, like you might lose a few babies through cannibalism, but for the most part, you probably won't. Like I said, these particular tarantulas are common and they usually get along very well. So as long as you've got plenty of food. And the other thing that Dave's going to mention here is a very interesting thing to me, because I know that people say, well, you're going to, if you feed spiderlings in general, you like crush the head of a cricket or a mealworm and you cut it up and you leave it them and they'll eat it. And that's true for the most part, but it's interesting that he will like kill like one dubia roach, which is usually pretty big, and he'll just let all the little tiny ones feed off it. He'll explain some of that. So it's really kind of cool.
This or that. No. Once you got this stage and she seals herself in, leave her alone. And then she will come out and do this and let you know you're about to become a mum or a dad. You know, it's all going to be there. So then what we do then is we allow them to hatch out. Now, we can feed them almost as soon as they appear. I generally pop a bit of food in. And what I'll do is I will use a large roach, a nice big fat, you know, female roach full of juices and goodness. And quite often or not, I will pre-kill it and I will drop it into the web. And then you will see them babies will all come out and they will start feasting on them carcasses that you've just dropped in there. And this is how we go. So I don't feed the babies live food. And one of the things that I've found over the time is that the Balfouris are a little bit almost nervous of live food. And I think this comes back to the thing that where they're all in there with mum, she kills the prey. And they're used to feeding on something that's either dying or dead. So
I wonder, though, I have to ask Dave, because I do talk to him occasionally about questions I have. I wonder, though, like, because he's right, like when I feed, especially my littler Balfouri, she's very skittish. I mean, I'm assuming she eats because the crickets that I usually put in there are gone at some point. But I wonder if she would, even at her size, what's maybe about yay big, I'm wondering if killing it would still, if she would still eat it. Like if, because, you know, a lot of times they say also spiders they usually like live food because it's, you know, it's like they're hunting and they're, you know, eating their prey. But obviously a real large spider probably doesn't care about a dead roach or anything. But I don't know. Like, I don't know if they'd actually still eat it if they knew about it. Like, that's very curious to me because, you know, if a small spider can see a dead mealworm or caterpillar or you know, cricket, roach, whatever, and still eat it, why wouldn't a bigger one do it? I mean, obviously the bigger one likes the thrill of the hunt, but I'm just wondering at what point, like, do juveniles still eat dead crickets and stuff? Like, maybe some of you that watch this can kind of explain that to me, because if it's easier for my younger ones just to eat, you know, dead, you know, pre-killed crickets and stuff, then maybe I'll do that to make it easier on them when I feed them. But like some of my juvies and young adults, like I have a couple. I have a large Brazilian blonde, and then I have a large Brazilian white knee, both about yay big. And they are ravenous eaters. Like I can drop a couple of crickets in there and they'll just same with my green bottle blue behind me. This one's probably about yay big as well. And it's a very aggressive eater. It will eat. And so, but I wonder if I put like a dead cricket in there that's, you know, just like if I killed it just now and put it in there, I wonder if she would still eat it. I just wonder, like, I really don't know. So maybe somebody can answer that for me. I mean, obviously, it might depend on the size of your enclosure. If a spider has to go search out a dead cricket, it may not do that. So maybe that's part of it. So, like, usually my smaller spiderlings will be in, like, enclosures maybe this big, you know, or like this big, depending if it's arboreal or whatever. But even with my young featherleg, I put like little pinpoint crickets in there and she eats them, but I don't know if it's just better to try to pre-kill them and put them in there and she'll still eat them. I don't know. Like I'm not really sure because she's just kind of coming out of that spiraling stage now. She's still pretty much a spiraling though, very small still, but I'm just curious about that. So yeah, anybody that knows the answer to that, if you're in your own experiences with your spider keeping between spiderlings and adults, like what have you noticed? If you ever pre-killed anything, even for a larger, older spider, and do they still eat it, or are they just, when they get older, they just go with the live stuff? Like, let me know what your experience is with that. But later today, another Vintage Cult Cinema video coming. Anthony Jordan from Movies and Gaming and I are going to do a review for 2005 Serenity, based off the Firefly series. It's a movie I really enjoy, and I think he's seen it too. I think he said he had a copy of it. But we're going to review that for Vintage Cult. And then later tonight, Ghouls of Midnight. We were supposed to do it last night, but Mr. Tony was under the weather, but I hope he's better today, feeling better. So we're going to get around to doing our reviews this week for Ghouls of Midnight. And so be looking for that later on. Outside that, I'll keep you updated and appreciate the support as always. Hit like and subscribe. Give me your comments, especially if you're a tarantula keeper. Do you have this particular species in your collection? And how many you got? Let me know. Take care.